Munatire Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parivraja Gacharya Ashtotara Sata Sisi Madhus Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, congratulations everyone for rising in the morning after that wonderful feast yesterday. Truly stunning feast. Thank you to the birthday boy for putting it all together. Ice cream that has never been tasted in this world before. Shrikant fit for the Lord. And we all got up this morning. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and today is also Gundicha Marajana, the cleaning of the Gundicha temple. Verses on the board there. Which one is it? 6? 7. Okay. So it's, okay, so it'll be 6. 6 and okay. 7. 7. Okay. Any advance on 7? So do I hear an 8? Sold. 7. Satam. That wasn't that funny. I tried my best. I'm leaving today. I'll use my best jokes today. Rajas Tama Iti Sattang Rajas Tama Iti Sattang Rajas Tama Iti Prakriter Naimano. Excuse me, my glasses. That workman always blames his tools. Atmano Gunaha Prakriter Natmano Gunaha Prakriter Natmano Gunaha Sattvam Rajastama Iti Prakriter Natmano Guna Na Tesham Yugapad Rajan Natesham Yugapad Rajan Rasa Ulasa Evava Natesham Yugapad Rajan Rasa Ulasa Evava. Should we give it a melody? Let's give it a melody. Sattvam Rajastama Iti Prakriter Natmano Guna Natesham Yukapadrajan Rasa Ulasa Evava Sattvam Rajastama Iti Prakriter Natmano Guna Natesham Yukapadrajan Rasa Ulasa Evava. Ladies. Sattvam, the mode of goodness, yes. Raja, the mode of passion, that's right. Tama, the mode of, very good. Iti, thus, prakriti, of material nature. Na, not. Atmana, of the spirit soul. Guna, qualities. Na, not. Tesham, of them. Yugapat, simultaneously. Rajan, O king. Rasa, diminution. Ulasa, permanence. Eva, certainly. Va, or. Translation. The dear King Parikshit, the material qualities, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tamaguna, all belong to the material world and do not even touch the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. But the original position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of equality. There is no question of his being influenced by Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, or Tama Guna. For these material qualities cannot touch the Supreme Lord. The Lord is therefore called the Supreme Ishvara. Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Controller. He controls material qualities, Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mamamaya, and Mayadhyakshena Prakrite Suyate. Material nature, Prakriti, works under his order. How then can he be under the qualities of Prakriti? Krishna is never influenced by the material qualities. Therefore, there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Good morning. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shikrave Namaha. I'm going to remember a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that begins with Sattvam Rajastama Iti. Sattvam Rajastama Iti Prakriti. Come on, Janapriya. Sattvam Rajastama Iti Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha. Okay, I'm exposing myself just as much as I'm exposing you. But these, I was to sit before you and I was to say, Krishna is Bhagavan, who is beyond the modes of nature. There is no passion in him, no Rajaguna. There's no Tamaguna, there's no ignorance in Bhagavan. He is pure goodness. Would that be a glorification of Krishna? There's no ignorance in him. There's no passion in him. He is pure goodness. Would that, Leela Manjari, would that be a glorification of Krishna? Yes? It's also a glorification of Krishna that would get me pulled off the Vyasasan very quickly. Why? Yeah! Sattva guna is still a material quality. If I say God is pure goodness, then we have a problem. See, pure goodness is material thing. It's within the world. So many people have to. This is what we're doing here. Is we're going through the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is a commentary on the Upanishads. And the Vedas end in Vedanta, and Vedanta is the philosophy of the Vedas. But Vedanta Sutra is 555 verses taken from the Upanishads that explain the position of God. So Srila Vyasadeva, Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's commenting on his commentary. His commentary is the Vedanta Sutra, which is a commentary on the Upanishads. Then the Srimad Bhagavatam is a more detailed commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. You understand? So he wrote it. So there's a way that you establish, first of all, we have to establish that God is a person. We have to establish that. But this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam, does not begin with that. We've dealt with that in the Vedanta Sutra. We have to come to that point first. So sometimes the logic is missing when you get to these purports. It's accepted that when you start reading this, what is that verse? That you've got rid of all the other competing philosophies to come at least to the understanding that the Supreme Lord is a person. You should understand what that means. And therefore, Srila Vyasadeva outlines this in his initial chapters. In the initial chapter, but in chapter 2 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 1 is sort of like the chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, setting the scene. Then we get into it in chapter 2 and 3, etc. So the real nub, the real hub, the real seed of the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Vyasadeva's meditation. So Narad Muni, he visits Vyasadeva in his Himalayan ashram near where the Shalagram Shilas are. And Narad Muni says, "You've done very well. I mean, I must compliment you, but you haven't done this." So Srila Vyasadeva goes into meditation, and of course he sees three things. What does he see? He sees the material nature, and he sees Maya Devi, who's made the material nature, or in control of the material nature. She's offering her humble obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we have this verse, don't we? Vidanti tat tat bhavidas tatvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Okay? So we know Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said it is like sometimes the train came to India for the very first time during the British Raj. And some people did not know in India, what is train? What is train? Is it big? Is it small? Is it black? Is it white? Is it red? Green? We don't know what is train. So the train lines were laid, and then they waited in the village for the first time. The first ever train was coming to an Indian village. So the first lot of people, they heard the train ahead. And they saw a light. So they said, "We have seen, now we know what is train. We've seen train. It is a woo, and it is a light." So they went home. They went home. I've seen. I've had darshan. I've seen the train. The next lot of people, they saw that there was a whistle, a light. They saw some smoke, and they heard this sound. and they saw it as a black object like this. Then they went home. But the third group of people, they stayed until the train came into the platform. And they realized that the train is not just like this, but it's like this. And inside the train, there are people, and you can talk to them. So in the same way, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that when we are trying to understand God, your first realization of God is very good, but your first realization of God will be one-dimensional. It'll be a sound that you've never heard before, and some bright light. It's very good, but don't go home yet. Don't give up. Keep going. If you keep going, you'll hear the different sound. Or something more. There's something more than a whistle. There's something more than a light. Now I see a shape. But don't go home. Stay. Wait. Now you'll see the train. And you'll discover that the whole point of having a train is not just that it's a train. The whole point is that there's people. And you can speak to the people. So when approaching Bhagavan, we will get lots of different realizations in here. You see, Bhagavan will manifest himself in here. But first you'll see the light, then you'll see the shape, and then you'll enter into the relationship. Don't go home halfway through. Just like I'm coming from, it's like we are coming from Chandigarh. Coming from Chandigarh to Aberdeen. They're living in Aberdeen 1 year. She's also from Aberdeen. You'd probably find that you were living in the next street to her. So we're coming from Chandigarh to Aberdeen. Don't give up halfway, you see, because halfway is likely to be somewhere over Russia. You cannot go to the cabin crew and say, "I'm tired now. I want to go. I want to get out." If you want to get out, you'll be in Russia. Unless you speak Russian, you'd be okay. But unless you speak Russian, you see, Russia is not Chandigarh and it's not Aberdeen. You were meant to go to Aberdeen, but you got out halfway. Well, if you got out halfway, you'd be, your attempts would be unsuccessful. So this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We're trying to become conscious of Krishna. Therefore we go all the way to Krishna. Haribol. So the Srila Vyasadeva defines Krishna. There are many Shastras in India. There are 18 Puranas. 18 Puranas. 6 of them are meant for people who are mostly affected by the mode of tamagun. And if you read those Puranas, you will find that different gods, they're predominant. You'll find Shiva is very predominant. He wins the battles and different things. If you read the Raja Tattva Puranas, you may find other things, but Agni and different things. But if you read the Sattvic Puranas, out of the 18, the 6 are Sattvic. So if you read those, you will come to the understanding that Vishnu is Parameshwara. And if you read the Maha Purana, the Bhagavat Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam as we call it, you'll find that Krishna is the supreme Vishnu. Now that's a long way to go. All the way through the Veda, all the way through the Upanishad, all the way through Vedanta Sutra, all the way through the Puranas, this Purana, all the way through to the Sattvic Puranas, all the way through to the Bhagavat Purana. It's a long journey. But we are fortunate that that journey has been made for us, and all we have to do is open the book, which has been translated into English for us, and we take that. Now, at some point in your life, let me say this, at some point in my life, I had come to the Krishna consciousness movement very young. I'd never really explored religion. And so I wanted to join the dots in the logic. So I retraced my steps to see if I could come to Krishna through the Vedas, the Upanishads, and then Vedanta Sutra, and then Puranas. And I'm sitting here today because I think I was able to do it. In one sense, you could say it was a foolish pursuit because I was already an initiated devotee. But sometimes you just have to prove these things to yourself. Also, sometimes that your faith demands it, and also so that you can prove it to others as well. We have to be able to create a logical sequence of ideas. Otherwise, who will join us? Unless it's logical, what scientifically minded person would take such a thing? So now we are living in the age of science. Who will take religion seriously unless it's logically and scientifically proven? So within the Puranas, you'll find many stories, and that's nice. If you go to India, they'll say, oh yes, India, we have so many mythologies. They don't realize that when you call it mythology, when you're speaking an English word, which means it is not real. Or in India, they say mythology. In other words, if it's mythology, then why should I believe it? The whole point of the Bhagavad Purana is that you will believe it. We should come away with firm faith, Shraddha, that Krishna exists, and I have a relationship with him, and I'm trying to develop it in this life. In the same way, the British people taught the Indians for murti instead of archa murti. They said, no, the English word is idol. So all over India, when you say, who do you worship in your temple? You say, oh, it is a Krishna idol. No, an idol does not mean something spiritual, it means something material. A pop star is an idol. Sachin Tendulkar is an idol, something that but it doesn't mean the same thing. And it means it's a projection of the mind. In other words, I want to believe in Krishna. Some rishis thousands of years ago said that Krishna plays a flute. Therefore, I don't have any other ideas myself, therefore I'm also accepting that Krishna is like this. But it is mythology. It is made up. But I'm a Hindu, so we keep these traditions. I don't really believe it. And if someone asks me, do you believe it? I will say, no, not really, but my grandmother, she told me I should believe. These rishis have written it down. But actually, for Hindu Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, to undergo a true renaissance, for it to grow again, and for India to become Bharat Mata, these things, we have to believe these things. It is not that the religion of the white people is superior to the religion of the brown people. Well, my religion, I'm a white person. My religion is, we have to see there is a superior scientific understanding. So we should be proud of our culture. So if you can, try to make the logical connections between different components of the philosophy. Otherwise, what you'll find is that your logic falls down at a certain point, and you'll find that I kind of accept this, but I don't, it's like, that's a gray area for me. I've never really understood it, never really believed it. Don't think I want to practice the practices that come from believing it. And so you'll go year after year after year in your spiritual life, and you may find that you just can't get over that hump. So I feel it's important to fill in the gaps. So Bhagavatam fills in the gaps. Here, let's look at some of these words we have. The word prakrite is very interesting. Prakrite, material nature. I talked to Kartik Chandra. Kartik Chandra is a devotee who went to school when he was 5, but it was a Sanskrit school, and he finished when he was 17. So he can go shopping in Sanskrit. He can go to Tesco's and ask for everything in Sanskrit. Of course, no one will understand him, but so I said, Prakriti, how is it made? He said, well, it's pra, which means a going forward, and kriti means action. So it means creation, nature. And we get the word procreate. He said procreate comes from prakriti. I said, oh, very, very good. Now here we have another word here. Sattva, of course, is derived from sat, that which is, it's fixed. Raja, agitated. Tama, sleepy or dark. Okay. These are the modes of nature which work on us at every moment of the day. Kapila Dev says that even bhakti, even serving Krishna, can be divided into sattvam, rajas, and tamas. And he describes the symptoms. A person in Rajaguna doing bhakti will see even the Vaishnavas in terms of friends and enemies. They will see God in terms of, that God is in the temple, but he's not everywhere, and different things like that. So we have to, as well as practicing bhakti, we have to endeavor to raise ourselves to the mode of goodness so that we are practicing yoga in sattva-guna. It's very easy to practice bhakti in Rajaguna because that's where we're happy. That's where we're most comfortable. Although Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, I'm very happy when my disciples come up to the mode of Rajaguna. So then we have this word Atma. Of course, Atma we know. And Atmana, of the soul. This is the fundamental teaching of Bhagavad Gita or Gita Upanishad, that the body is not you. This body is changing, always changing, but the soul never changes. Never changes. It's always the same. This life, last life, next life, the soul is always the same. When you realize the eternal soul, you will be happy. You have a happiness that cannot be taken away. In this world, happiness comes and happiness goes. The modes of nature, prakriti, make the senses want something, the senses reach out for something. Just like my modes of nature are very animated by toast and marmalade. If I see toast and marmalade, I'm just dropping a hint. Okay, Hokshajan? I'm very animated. Okay, if you put toast and marmalade on a stick, on a string, I would I'd be like this. So the senses reach out for sense objects, but when we get them, unfortunately, we're not happy. We're not happy. And the rishis say it is like a beautiful mango tree by a lake. And the lake is like so peaceful, it's like a mirror. So the mango tree is here, and the reflection of the mango tree is like this. And instead of going for the mango tree because you have to climb, you go for the reflection of the mango, and you reach into the water. And as soon as you touch the reflected mango, it disappears. So happiness in Maya Samsara is like that. You reach for the reflection of what you would like, and it disappears in your hand. Therefore, Prabhupada said, this world is like a mirage. Must be a Hindi word for mirage. When you're going across a desert, what is it? Huh? Trishna. Mit Krishna. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, Kasturi, yes. Yeah, musk. Yeah. Yeah. It's within him, yeah. So Prabhupada liked this idea when you're crossing a desert. You're thirsty, and you're looking in the desert, and you see some ripples, and you see an oasis. He said, there is no such oasis where you are seeing it, but there is a real oasis somewhere else. He says, so happiness in this world is Maya Sukhaya. It is Chapala Sukha. It is Sukha, happiness, but it's Chapala. Chapala means coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, like that. So the more we chase this, the less we are happy. But that does not mean that the real oasis with the real water does not exist somewhere. It's just you have to find it. Yeah. So one time, Prabhupada had said, this was his first few weeks in New York, in 1966, he came from India to America, and he said, so this, he said, so one who knows Krishna knows everything. If you know Krishna, you know everything. So someone put their hand up and said, Swami, and he thought he would be very clever. He said, how many windows are there in the Empire State Building? Because he'd heard, if you know Krishna, you know everything. So he said, how many windows on the Empire State Building? And quick as a flash, Prabhupada said, he said, how many drops of water are there in a mirage? Another, he answered the question by saying, you fool, you're asking me about something in this world. You know, why would I know it? Why would I care to know it? It's unreal. So if something is unreal, we don't chase after that. Prabhupada was very graphic sometimes. He said, should I tell it? Maybe not. But Prabhupada was very earthy in his examples. He said the bull is walking, and underneath the bull there is a bird who looks up and thinks, here's a fish. And he said, the fish is going to fall very soon. Prabhupada laughed. He said, just see, he's chasing after something that will never happen. So in this way, there are many, many examples of how we chase after nothingness. It's a somethingness. It doesn't mean that it is not actually there. This is actually here. But if we think that it will give me what I'm looking for, then I will not find it. So then Prakriti is like that. Manifestations. There are ever new manifestations. Let me tell you, I have personal experience. 50 years, nearly 50 years in Krishna consciousness. Next year, I will be celebrating 50 years on this path of Krishna Bhakti. Hooray. But let me tell you, the Maya is ever changing. Just when you think you've achieved, conquered some Maya, you will find that Maya shapeshifts and there's something else to torment you. If you give in and you chase, you'll just be a sad old grumpy person. It's better to remain on the path, believe me. So then we have this word here. It's an interesting, this word Yugapat. And of course, you could be forgiven for thinking that was an ISKCON guru in the 1980s, Srila Yugapat. That would have been a good name. But Yugapat means simultaneously. And then Ulasa, prominence. So interesting. So we have here a description of how Krishna is in full control of Maya. That was Vyasadev's vision, and it's how the Srimad Bhagavatam begins. That he sees Maya is offering her obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, in most Western systems, Abrahamic systems like Judaism or Christianity or Islam, we find that there is God and there is someone who is pulling you away from God. You see, they call Lucifer or the dark angel or the devil or Shaitan pulling you away. So there's someone who is in competition with God. But the Srimad Bhagavatam says no, there's no devil. There's no devil. If there is a devil, it's your own calm inside your heart. And there's Maya, but she is not the devil. She's serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's like this, namaste. Hey Bhagavan, namaste. So she's not his competitor, but for a devotee we say she tests us because material nature is constantly alluring us. Okay. So we have to take responsibility for our own actions. But then, I am not quite sure this next part, and perhaps we can have a discussion. Because here the translation says, okay, there's three modes of nature. They don't touch Bhagavan. They don't even touch him. And this is a sentence I was wondering, what does this mean? These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. What does it mean? You get a gold star, you get a rhino stamp, and you get your name on a chart at the front of the class.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the modes are in a sort of imbalance. Sometimes one is prominent, sometimes the other is not. So they aren't simultaneously all the same, increasing or decreasing at the same time. But there's one prominent, and then another one is prominent.
Okay. So that's kind of what I thought, but I wanted to confirm it. The sadhu. Yeah, very good. So yes, like when you go in a recording studio, the 64-track recording studio, you may have had the experience. You don't put all the levers up to the top simultaneously. They're adjusted. So sometimes the mode of passion is in control of your life, sometimes the mode of sattva, sometimes the mode of rajas, something like that. So the modes of nature, they cannot even affect Bhagavan. What does it say? By increasing or decreasing simultaneously. These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. They cannot act on him. That's the idea. Yes. Yes, okay. Constantly, simultaneously we have Yugapat, this word, Yugapat. Yugapat, I wish Kartik Chandra was here. He'd split this word into different components. So in this way, there are two things that we concentrate on. One is becoming purified. Yoga is all about becoming purified. In the beginning of the yoga process, or the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali Muni describes, he says, Atha, he says, let's discuss yoga. Second verse is, yoga means a decrease of the chitta vritti within the mind. Chitta vritti is the constant stream of thought in the mind. He says, when this has been minimized, yoga has been reached. So everything about that path of yoga is minimizing passion and tama and increasing goodness. Okay. We've just discussed here how God is never touched even by goodness, but our job is to think, well, goodness at least would give me a chance. So we minimize the mode of passion by going into the forest so that we don't see any beautiful things. We go to the Himalaya mountains, we're surrounded by snow, so that we don't see any Coca-Cola or Netflix, or we don't see any tempting things, okay? We don't even watch Ramanand Sagar's Ramayan on the TV, or Adipurush. Don't watch that. So we separate ourselves completely. Now, separating yourself completely from other human beings, this is known as the path of extrication. You're pulling yourself out. There are mainly 4 yogas, 2 of extrication and 2 of integration. 2 paths of extrication are this yoga described by Patanjali, and of course Jnana Yoga. This is pulling yourself away from the world in an attempt to rise above Maya Sukha. Okay. And then the path of integration is Karma Yoga, where we are working in the world with family and job and everything like this. And we're asking Bhagavan to accept everything that we have as an offering. But I'm also a little bit attached to what I'm doing. So, but I'm working with that. And the other is bhakti. We don't extricate ourselves from the world. We integrate ourselves with it. We're very much in the world. Yes, we may live on a mountain, but we leave the mountain in order to sell books on the street. We're very much integrated with the world. So the yoga of Patanjali Muni does not do that. They don't go out for book distribution. They may read the book and transcend in that way, of a different path. But he says, when all the confusing, attractive thoughts have ceased within your mind, so that you've reached yoga. then you can begin the chain of events which will lead to samadhi. So it's all about self-purification. So there's all of that which we do. And then we're trying to reintegrate ourselves. So extricate ourselves, we do that. That's all part of bhakti as well. So we do not we practice ahimsa, we don't eat meat, we don't drink certain things, smoke certain things, snort certain things. We look after the senses. We don't put anything in that doesn't deserve to be there just for bodily maintenance. So in this way, we purify the existence. Second thing we do is we're trying to integrate ourselves in the world of the Supreme Personality. So Krishna is very real for the devotees of Krishna. Sri Ramanujacharya, he said reaching God is very difficult. To reach God is very difficult. He said reaching God is like finding water in the desert. Very difficult. He said, just like you have one here and you have one there. You have hand pumps. In India, they're all over the place. In England, not so much now. They used to have them. So you pump, and the water goes deep, deep, deep down like that. He said, so sometimes finding God, you have to do yoga, and you have to drill, 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 down, down, down into the heart. And then you will find God. He said, this Paramatma is there, but he's very deep. He said, and sometimes the water comes as a rushing flood, comes as a tsunami. This is the avatar of God. So when the avatar comes, everybody sees God. Everybody, whether they're interested in God or not. Everybody saw Krishna Bhagavan on the field of Kurukshetra. Everybody saw Krishna. Whether they liked him or whether they didn't, whether they knew who he was or whether he didn't. It's like a flood. But then he's gone. So the flood comes, then it's gone. Tsunami comes, it's gone. So that's also water. It's uncontrollable. You can't control the avatar of the Lord. So sometimes drilling down to get the water, sometimes waiting for the flood. And this way there are different ways of getting water. He said, but it is easier. He said, if you have the murti of the Lord, and you have the Lord in front of you, and then you can touch him directly. You can be there in his home. One time Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. Did I tell this the other day? Maybe I did. He had the bell ringing. Did I say this? Prabhupada heard the bell ringing, and the arati was going on. And he turned to all his, as he would say, big sannyasis. Always big sannyasis. And he said, just see, the pujaris are doing in this world what we are waiting to do in the next world. He said, they are already doing it. They are already serving Krishna. Yeah. We are simply training for that time when we can go to Vaikuntha and do it. But they are already doing it. In this way, being a pujari is the highest thing in this world. And that's what he said then. And then I guess he said something else when he was talking to the book distributors. But that's what he said. So in this way, Ramanujacharya says that having the deity form and being able to serve the deity form of the Lord is extremely important, because the Lord comes to you and you can handle him. So sometimes we cannot all go to the temple, but sometimes the temple will come to us. The Lord comes out of his temple and he comes down the street, either in a palki or in a ratham. So above Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you'll see Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. These forms are present in Jagannath Puri, you know. And the Lord is taken out once a year, and he goes in chariots down the road, long way. There's over 1 million people come And at the bottom, he reaches a temple known as the Gundicha Mandir. Now, the Jagannath temple is known as the Indradyumna Mandir because he built it. It was built in the 1200s. The temple that we see today when we go is sort of 1200s-ish. So Gundicha was his wife. Indradyumna's wife was Gundicha. So he went, and this temple is her temple. And this is where Jagannath stays until the Lakshmis, or the priests who are serving Mother Lakshmi, they come during a festival called Hera Panchami, and they beat the servants of Jagannath with sticks. You know, why are you keeping Bhagavan in your temple? He belongs in our temple. Now it is time for him to come back. How long is it? A week. So I've not been to the Gundicha temple, but I've been to the gate and offered my pranam. Being white, being Shukul Vesh, I've not been to the Jagannath Mandir, but I've been and offered my pranam. But around the corner from the Gundicha temple is a very nice temple of Lord Nrsingadev. Very ancient temple of Lord Nrsingadev. Narahari Rupam. And they didn't used to open it to Westerners, but now they do. So it's a very nice place to go and get some nice darshan. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, they decided that they would clean the Gundicha temple and cleaning it with water. And of course, temples in India are very busy places. Most of them need a good clean every day. You can rank your temples by how clean they are. You know, if there's still prasad from last week, you know, you have to redo the cleaning schedule. So it's very important. Cleaning is very important. Never let it be said that cleaning is a menial task. Otherwise, why is it elevated to the level of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's song? What is that? How does it go? Tananichyanana Shingaratan Mandira Marjanado. Mandira Marjana. When I lived in East Africa, we had several temples where the richest men in the city, they would all come on one day and they would stand at one end of the temple with brooms. And they would all sweep the temple together. They'd walk in a line down to the bottom of the temple and back up, sweeping all the dust. Because it was considered, well, I'm a rich man, but this is a good way for me to feel humble, dainya, by sweeping the temple of the Lord. And it became a certain thing. You weren't allowed to do this particular seva unless you were very rich. So you had to be very rich to do it. Oh, you're not rich enough to sweep the temple on that day. You better play golf with this bank manager first. If you play golf with the bank manager and you make a few more deals, open up another shop, then one day you might be rich enough to do Mandira Marjanam. So in this way, this principle is given to the king, Gajapati Maharaj of Jagannath Puri, and he comes out into the street and sweeps the street. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was acknowledged as the greatest devotee of the time, and all the great devotees took part in this Gundicha Marjanam. But there was one thing they did. They had to do it with pots of water, and it took all day, and they had to remove every little piece of straw, every little piece of dust. So first of all, there was brushing, and then there was every little piece of dirt was removed, everything. And then was cleaning with water. And they brought big lotas of water, big jugs. What do you call these? Not small lotas or matkis, but the big ones. Huh? Gara, yes. Sometimes you see ladies in Rajasthan, they wear the big gara. Sometimes 3 on their head like this. So big pots like this, they brought water. But there was a rule of Gundicha Marjana. that no one was allowed to talk. But sometimes you would need to say things like, I need a fresh broom. Because the brooms in India, they're made of grass. So sometimes they wear out. So I need a fresh broom over here, but you're not allowed to speak. So they said, Krishna, 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 hey. Another person said, I need more water over here. Hey, Madhava, Madhava, Yadava, Hari. Another person would say, Gopala Govinda Rama, which meant, someone come and give me a hand with this. I need to lift this to get underneath. So everybody was calling out the names of Krishna. By the end of the day, I think it was a day, wasn't it? By the end of the day, the whole temple was clean. So one day perhaps we will be able to go there, but you can go there. You can go, you can go, you can go. Oh, you've been there already? Then you'll enjoy. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir.
Pure goodness. The Sudasattva is pure goodness. And that actually there's only two modes of nature. And the third one, the mode of goodness, is the very, very tiny, tiny last traces of Raja and Tamas. So that's material mode of goodness. And then when you remove every last particle of those two gunas, then you end up with Vasudasattva, which is the Vaikuntha atmosphere.
That'll do. I agree with that. Sure. Yeah. Sometimes, yes, sometimes, so what he's saying is that Sattva Guna is just a description of the how would you say, the absence of a thing. And yet, the fact that the Sattva Guna acts in a way, the Prakriti acts in a way when it is free from Raja and free from Tama. It acts to, as Prabhupada said, to condition the soul to happiness. In other words, it's still a remnant. It's a very small remnant of Raja. Yeah. Although we talk about the three modes of nature, there are, of course, 9, because the 9 modes of nature are made up of ignorance in the mode of ignorance, ignorance in the mode of passion, ignorance in the mode of goodness, then passion in the mode of ignorance, passion in the mode of passion, and passion in the mode of goodness, etc. So you have 9. And then if you further subdivide that, you get to 27. And if you keep on further subdividing, you get, 8,400,000 levels of conditioning, which is the 8,400,000 levels of consciousness. Those levels of consciousness are met by the body when you take your deha. And so you have 8,400,000 species, as Prabhupada calls them. Yeah. Yeah.
What day is Ratha Yatra in Jagannath Puri? Is it this week? Or?
It's at there's this, how does it work? There's the Chandan Yatra, then Snana Yatra. Have we had Snana Yatra? Snana Yatra's been and gone, yeah? And so, what is tomorrow? Rath Yatra's tomorrow, okay. So this must be the sequence then. Gundicha Marjanam becomes before because you're getting ready for Lord Jagannath to come, yeah. It's always on the same date each year, isn't it? What's that date? Something to do with creation. I forget. But there's a way that they calculate when Rath Yatra should begin. Or when, yeah. Anything else? We're giving you the microphone now. I'll answer one. Ooh.
Does it imply that, the sum total of all the three is always constant?
Oh, like that. Yes. Yes. Just like he was saying that, my understanding is if you have an ocean and you get a wave over here and a wave, and then it falls, then another wave over here, then it falls. The amount of water has not increased or decreased, but it's adjusting. It's a fluctuation. Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the elevation of karma yoga to bhakti yoga by the addition of a small element of bhakti. So you do karma yoga, very good, but you add a small element of bhakti, which increases the desire for priti in the heart, leading to prem. So with us, the tradition is that you do karma yoga, but you add on the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then very slowly, your karma yoga will become more and more integrated into bhakti. So eventually, your karma yoga becomes bhakti yoga by the addition of the elements of bhakti. It is like putting sugar in your tea. Tea is okay. You like your tea for breakfast. We don't drink tea, but tea for you is okay. But it's a little nice if you have a little sugar. It makes it more pleasing. So if you add the Hare Krishna mantra to your daily life, then even karma yoga becomes a little more sweet. Yes, yes. And the karma yoga is also, when it becomes defined that this karma yoga is, it becomes yoga when you know who you are doing it for. In other words, yoga means to join together. So then when you know it is Krishna that you are yoking with, then immediately the heart will want to render service to Krishna. So we take from, our bhakti comes from Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavad Purana says, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani Vedanam. All these 9 different elements of bhakti. So we try to add just a little bit in our life of that, and then very, very soon it'll become transformed, and we will see that our understanding of Krishna will become very clear. But first of all, we have to understand: is Krishna the goal of yoga? That's the thing. So philosophy first, then comes the action. Just like you have to know that there is such a place as Aberdeen before you can go there. Before you buy a ticket to Aberdeen, you have to know that such a place exists. I've never been to Chandigarh, but I've heard about it. I've seen pictures of it. So now I believe it to be true. So only now, when I believe it to be true, will I buy my ticket to Chandigarh. Okay? So unless I believe, then I can't buy my ticket. So bhakti is buying a ticket. So first of all, you have to believe. And how will I believe? Well, you have to see through the eyes of Gyan that Krishna is the Parameshwara. And then when you know this, then you can buy your ticket. And the ticket is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's the ticket. Cheap ticket. But it's not a return ticket. It's a one-way ticket, I'm afraid. One-way ticket. Leela, you bought your one-way ticket? We punched her ticket. Thank you. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you so much for your hospitality. It's been wonderful. I've been here for a few days. I've been refreshed, rejuvenated, redeemed, and I'm very happy to go south of the border, spreading the glories of Sri Karuna Bhavan as I go. Hari Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.